Welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at this guy, Torahiko Terada,
Oh, yeah.
a Japanese physicist and essayist who had some pretty interesting ideas about how, playing around can lead to big scientific discoveries.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we've got some excerpts from articles that break down his work.
Okay.
One is even called Advice for Those Aspiring to Science. Should be a good one, and I'm really excited to see what we can learn from all this.
Yeah, Terada's work is really cool because he was one of the first to really blend science with things like art and the humanities.
That's cool.
Yeah, and this whole playful approach that you mentioned.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about, having fun.
Right.
He saw it as like a system, a way of thinking that could lead to actual, big discoveries.
Okay, I'm hooked already. So how did he actually define play when it comes to science?
Right.
It seems kind of weird to think about play and serious science going together.
Well, that's what makes it so interesting. Terada actually broke down play into 3 different types that he thought were super important for scientific progress.
Okay.
Creative play.
Okay.
Inquisitive play.
Gotcha.
And experimental play.
I'm guessing that creative play is all about brainstorming, like coming up with those aha moments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that spark of new ideas, thinking outside the box and seeing connections that other people might miss.
Right.
But it's not enough just to have creative play. You need that burning curiosity, that drive to dig deeper and understand why.
Right.
And that's where inquisitive play comes in.
Okay, so it's like that, that thirst for knowledge, wanting to explore everything about a topic.
Exactly. And then, of course, you have experimental play.
Okay.
The hands-on part where you get to test your ideas, tinker with things, see what actually works.
Yeah.
Bringing those creative sparks to life through actually experimenting.
And he believed that all 3 types of play work best together, right?
Absolutely. The source material really stresses that these aren't just separate ideas.
Right.
They feed off of each other, and they create this powerful cycle of exploration and discovery.
Yeah.
And, we see this illustrated really well in Terada's own life and work.
So give me an example. What kind of playful activities did Terada actually do?
Well, one anecdote that really stood out to me was his fascination with these really quirky articles he found in old issues of Philosophical magazine.
Okay.
Titles like The Mechanics of Hanging, On Human Bullets.
On human bullets.
Yeah.
Wow, that's certainly not your typical scientific paper.
Right.
What drew him to those kinds of unusual topics?
Well, this is a great example of creative and inquisitive play working together.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to go outside of what people usually thought of as scientific inquiry.
Yeah.
He was interested in the strange, the unusual, and that's what sparked him to explore more.
It's kind of like how we fall down these internet rabbit holes today. You start by looking up something simple, and all of a sudden you're reading about the history of chewing gum or the mating habits of deep-sea creatures.
Exactly.
It's that same kind of curiosity.
It is. And this strong desire to learn even led Terada to study some really complex scientific texts in some pretty unconventional settings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the source mentions how he devoured this book, Rayleigh's Theory of Sound, while he was recovering from an illness at a hot spring resort.
Wow, so he was dedicated.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just playing around with quirky topics.
Yeah.
He was committed to really understanding those complex scientific theories, even when he wasn't in a formal academic setting.
That's right. And speaking of playing around, there's another great example from Terada's life that shows how he blended creative and experimental play.
Okay.
He actually did this experiment where he measured surface tension using a nickel cap from a purple pencil.
A nickel cap from a pencil.
Yeah.
I'm picturing one of those old-fashioned pencils with the metal band at the top.
Uh-huh.
What was he trying to figure out?
It wasn't so much about proving a specific theory. It was more about exploring something that he was curious about.
Okay.
He was known for using everyday objects in his experiments, finding creative ways to investigate science without needing, fancy lab equipment.
That's pretty cool. It's like a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected things can lead to big discoveries.
Yeah.
It's that DIY spirit, the willingness to just tinker and experiment that can really make breakthroughs happen.
Exactly. And this leads us to one of the most important things we can learn from Terada's work.
Okay.
It's the power of connecting ideas and disciplines that seem totally unrelated.
Okay. It's like we're seeing this idea of play really come to life in Terada's work, but how does this translate to, today's world? It seems like there's a connection to the way, startups work.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point, and the source actually mentions that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so think about it. Startups, They really thrive on these like creative brainstorming sessions where they come up with new ideas. It's pure creative play.
Right.
And then they move into market research, like trying to understand what people want and need, which
Yeah.
is like a perfect example of inquisitive play in action. And then finally, they create prototypes. They test their products out in the real world. That's experimental play.
So it's like they're almost intuitively following Terada's framework for like playful scientific inquiry.
Yeah.
Even if they're not, a scientist in the traditional sense.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that this isn't just limited to the tech world. We see this interconnected play in other fields too, like data science.
Data science. Really, I wouldn't really think of play as being a big part of that field.
Yeah, it might not be obvious at first, but think about the process of data analysis.
Okay.
So data scientists, they start with a hypothesis, like a question they want to answer.
Right.
And that's driven by inquisitive play.
Okay.
Then they test that hypothesis using data experimenting with different models and algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
That's experimental play.
Mm-hmm.
And based on what they find, they refine their hypotheses and explore new avenues.
Oh, so it's like a cycle.
Exactly. It's that constant back and forth between asking questions, testing them out, and coming up with new ideas.
Right.
It really reflects Terada's concept of this interconnected play.
Yeah, I see that. And what's really cool is that Terada's message goes beyond specific fields or professions.
It does.
It's like valuable for anyone who wants to be more creative and innovative when they're learning or solving problems.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that Terada was a big proponent of multidisciplinary learning.
Yeah.
So what does that actually mean, and how does it connect to his ideas about play?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too.
So multidisciplinary learning is all about exploring different fields and subjects,
Yeah.
even those that seem totally unrelated to what you're mainly interested in.
Okay.
Terada believed that by stepping outside of our comfort zones intellectually,
Right.
we open ourselves up to new ideas and perspectives and ways of thinking.
Yeah.
And this like cross-pollination of knowledge can spark creativity and help us see connections that we might have missed otherwise.
It's like that saying, connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best solutions come from seeing how different things are connected, which means you need a broad range of knowledge and experiences.
Right. And this ties into another key part of Terada's philosophy, nurturing curiosity.
Okay.
He believed in creating environments where people feel safe to ask questions, to follow their own interests, and to just dive deep into whatever fascinates them.
So it's like giving people permission to be intellectually playful to explore without being afraid of judgment or failure.
Exactly. And that brings us to another crucial takeaway, the importance of embracing trial and error.
Okay.
Terada didn't see failure as like the end. It was an essential part of learning. He believed that by experimenting, taking risks, and learning from both our successes and our mistakes, we can really deepen our understanding and make progress.
That makes sense, and I can see how this connects back to his emphasis on experimental play.
Yeah.
It's not about getting everything right the first time.
Right.
It's about being willing to tinker, to test things out, and to keep trying until you find what works.
Absolutely. And what's inspiring about Terada's own life is that he actually lived this way. He wasn't afraid to try new things, even if they didn't always work out how he planned. That willingness to explore, to learn from his mistakes, was a driving force behind his scientific journey.
That's really cool. It's a good reminder that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from those happy accidents.
Yeah.
Those unexpected results that make us rethink our assumptions and open up new possibilities.
Exactly. And ultimately, that's Terada's lasting message. And it's just as relevant today as it was back then. It's about cultivating that spirit of playful inquiry,
Okay.
approaching learning and problem solving with curiosity, an open mind, and a willingness to experiment.
This feels like it's bigger than just science, though. It's
Yeah.
really more about like a way of thinking, a way of approaching life with curiosity and wonder.
That's it. And what's cool is this message isn't just for, scientists or academics. It's for artists, entrepreneurs, educators, anyone who wants to tap into their creative potential and really, make a difference.
So how can we actually use Terada's philosophy in our own lives?
So-
Like, where do we even start?
Well, it starts by realizing that play isn't just for kids. It's
Yeah.
a powerful tool for exploration, for innovation, for personal growth.
Right.
It's about getting back that sense of wonder that we all had as kids.
Yeah.
That like insatiable desire to learn and discover new things.
I love that. So it's like giving ourselves permission to be curious,
Exactly.
to ask questions and explore without worrying about judgment or failing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, what makes you feel alive.
For me, it's definitely music. I love playing guitar, listening to new artists,
Yeah.
just getting lost in the world of sound.
That's great. Now think about how you can apply Terada's principles to music.
Okay,
Are there any new genres you'd like to explore?
maybe.
Maybe try writing your own songs or experimenting with different instruments, or even like dive into the physics of sound to really understand how music works.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. It's
Yeah.
like a whole new world opens up when you approach something with that kind of playful curiosity.
It is. And remember, Terada was all about connecting things that seem unrelated.
Yeah.
So maybe your love of music could lead you to explore the history of music technology,
Uh-huh.
or the cultural importance of different musical traditions,
Okay.
or even the therapeutic benefits of music.
It's crazy how one interest can lead to so many different things when you let yourself be curious.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of Terada's message.
Yeah.
It encourages us to see the world as like this interconnected web of possibilities, to embrace the unknown and to approach life with that sense of playfulness and adventure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave you with this thought. What are some seemingly unrelated interests or hobbies you have that might actually be connected to something bigger,
Oh, that's good.
with a little curiosity and exploration?
Yeah, maybe your love of photography could lead you to, the science of optics,
Right.
or how we see things.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe your passion for cooking could lead you to explore the history of food,
Yeah.
or different cultures and their cuisines,
Cool.
or even the chemistry of making the perfect souffle.
The possibilities are endless. So keep that spirit of playful inquiry that Terada talked about alive.
I love that.
Embrace your curiosity. Don't be afraid to experiment and see where your own unique blend of, creative, inquisitive, and experimental play takes you.
You got it.
You might just surprise yourself with what you find along the way.